I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to the next reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is over. Mister, if you want to poke the bear, oh, you've come to the right man.
This can't all be true.
Every word.
CIA Black Vault break-in.
Am I reading this correctly? The Kremlin bombing?
In fairness, the bomb was actually meant to kill him.
He gassed a security briefing.
That was just 2 months ago.
This explains the handcuffs. It's still not clear why he's here.
If we want to bring the world back from the brink, we have to deal with him.
Should he choose to accept?
Smart people on every side are close to panicking. What exactly is your plan?
Your team has been betrayed, Ethan. All your secrets compromised.
Everything you are, everything you've done, has come to this.
You gave him an aircraft carrier?
Our lives are the sum of our choices. This was your calling, your destiny. I have no regrets. Neither should you.
I need you to trust me. One last time.
Okay, Andy, here we are. 30 years in the making. The Final Reckoning, I'm just going to say the next Mission Impossible movie is upon us. We have seen it. I've seen it twice. Have you seen it twice?
I have not. I was impressed when I saw that you actually went a second time. I did. That's stellar of you to have done that. But no, I did not make it out.
I IMAXed it and I D-boxed it.
Wow, look at you.
I know.
Okay.
I didn't screen exit. That's my third. I could screen exit.
Yeah.
Which I've never done, which is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Yeah, we're coming back to the Mission Impossible series, which we did back in 2023, kicking off our 12th season? We kicked off with Mission Impossible. No, wait a minute. Now that I say that, it was the end of our 11th season. Yeah, our franchise season. Because we timed it so that it would hit with July, we would have that member bonus of Dead Reckoning Part 1.
So we're just doing that again, is what you're saying.
We're just now coming back and we're finishing it off with another, this next episode. But this is a member bonus episode, yet it is going to be one that we release to the public because, of course, membership, we love our members, and we just wanted to make sure that all those wonderful people who aren't members yet know what they're missing and where should they go if they want to learn more about membership, Pete?
TrueStory.fm/join.
And True Story, True has no E. TRUSTORY.
STORY.fm/join. And, we release it as a member bonus, but none of the member bonus stuff that we normally do in member bonuses is in here. We usually jaw about stuff before the movie starts.
But not in member bonus episodes.
Oh, I guess that's a good point. We don't do any pre-show chat. But if you're a member on all the other episodes, we talk before the movie starts, and that's worth paying for.
Well, yeah, the pre-show chats, okay, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. If we were to be doing a member pre-show chat for this one, we could have been talking about movies where Tom Cruise runs that aren't Mission Impossible.
Which is all of them. The catalog is huge. We could also be talking about great biplanes in film history. I would love to do that.
Barnstorming, absolutely, yeah.
There's just no end of the kind of stuff that we talk about on the show.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So, anyway, member bonus. Here it is.
Here it is. So let's dive into the final reckoning.
Where do you want to start? Are you giddy with anticipation?
It's interesting because this is, theoretically the last of this. They've kind of come out and said this is the last of the Mission Impossible movies. Now,
what have they really said? What are their words?
Do you really want me to pull this up? Don't make me pull it up.
What I want to know is, but don't believe their words, believe their actions, Andy.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, McQuarrie did say this is 2023 after Dead Reckoning. He said this pair would not necessarily end the series, and they were developing ideas for future installments. And Cruise said he was interested in making more movies about Ethan Hunt. And he actually cited at that time Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones all the way into his 80s. So I think he saw that. And this is, I think, the danger of things like Harrison Ford saying, yeah, let me play Indiana Jones one more time. Then Tom Cruise goes, oh, wait a minute. I'm only 60-something.
That's okay now?
20 more years of doing these movies, right? But then, just this year at the in New York premiere of the film, Tom Cruise did say this is the last one in the franchise, saying they didn't call it the final reckoning for no reason. So, but then again, Paramount Pictures probably has some say in this, I would imagine, and it's entirely possible they might actually bring Jeremy Renner back to take it over again. Who knows?
I'd just give it to Haley Atwell. Just let her have it.
Do you feel like they were setting it up for him? Because, I mean, at one point, Tom Cruise had actually mentioned that perhaps Glenn Powell, who he worked with on Top Gun, Maverick, could be the new lead, but who knows?
I just don't know. I'm sure that they are setting it up for somebody because the franchise, the franchise opened to its best opening of the franchise this weekend, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I'm sure that something will happen, but that it won't be Tom Cruise at the lead is the news. Here's hoping it sticks because I could use this being a point of finality.
It's like Paddington 2. You're like, they don't need to make any more because this ending, you gave it the ending it needed. And I felt like this was like, there's some great speeches, there's some great character moments, some beats and everything that worked really well as a way to sign off, at least with this particular crew,
Yeah, I think so too. And so I'm okay. I feel resolved with it. It took me a little bit. My first viewing, the ending of the film felt a little bit unresolved for me.
Interesting.
And on the second viewing, I feel like I got it.
Unresolved because why?
Because it seems like all of them meeting in a town square, in a busy square, and walking off in separate directions is kind of a thing.
You mean kind of a thing because it's a thing that this franchise does often.
It's a thing that this franchise does. Yeah.
So you thought it, because they chose to do that again, it almost made it feel like they're going to be back because we're having that same sort of thing.
That's exactly right.
Should it just have ended with like Tom Cruise just suddenly exploding as the rest of them walked off?
No, it should have ended. It should have ended with a long aerial over a field and then Ethan Hunt's broken body on top of a parachute or on top of his burned out parachute.
Interesting. Okay.
He ended up putting the poison pill on the little hard drive and smashed into the ground at 1,000 miles an hour. That's what I think should have happened.
Yeah. So this is a brand new movie for us as we talk about it. So be aware, we are going to be spoiling it. So just expect
good. Yeah,
that.
I'm glad you said
just expect that. But to his point, it does not end with Tom Cruise broken body in a field in South Africa holding the device and the poison pill. No. But I do have questions about that, and we'll get to that. But let's jump backward a little bit, because I think it's important to discuss this as intended to be kind of part two, right? And then it ostensibly is Dead Reckoning Part 2. They just said, you know what, forget that Part 1, Part 2 nonsense. We're just going to rename it. And so hence we have The Final Reckoning. But as far as like that whole Part 1, Part 2, that vibe, because I mean, the first one definitely ends with kind of that feel of unease, like he's made it off the train, he's got the device, he pulled it away from Gabriel, and now she has kind of gone off with the IMF team to become another member of them, ostensibly. And then we get kind of a voiceover kind of setting it up. Things are at unrest right now. Where are we going to go from here? Very much like a Two Towers, that sort of ending. And then this one kicks off. Now, granted, it was intended to kick off the summer of 2024. So we're like a whole year late because of COVID delays and other delays and stuff. But it kicks off with kind of a reset, kind of getting us up to speed. How does that play for you?
Well, it's a bummer that we're opening on this, because I feel
important.
Yeah, it is important, but there's so much that I really like about this movie, and the opening bit, and I think really the opening table setting, which lasts a long time. I mean, it's 22 minutes until the opening trailer run, or the opening credits run, and from there, it's like another half hour before we get into what I like to call the Red October section of the film, and then the Abyss portion of the film, and then the big missile scene, right? So it's a long journey into what I think of as the meat of what I want out of a Mission Impossible movie, and I think it's a slog. It feels like such a slog. That second time around, I was not in it. Ironically, I was more in it the latter part of the movie. Like it just really roped me right in. But I felt like that opening bit was after the initial like excitement of the fact that I'm in a Mission Impossible movie. There is a lot of table setting that I feel like was egregious in this movie. Move along.
It definitely has set up. And, I think that's part of going back to what we were saying about Tom Cruise saying this is the final one of these. It really felt like not only are we going to set the table for where we left things with Dead Reckoning Part 1, but we're also setting the table for the entire franchise. Like, we have, jumping back from the very first film, like, intercut all sorts of different scenes of Ethan Hunt doing his thing across the previous 7 films. Like, we're seeing all of it. And so it's really setting up this world of Ethan Hunt and everything that, he has been responsible for and how he's helped through the IMF over this entire thing. And I thought that was actually, it definitely felt, I don't want to say bloated, because I didn't necessarily feel that when I watched it, but it definitely felt like they were really working to remind us about this entire franchise and everything that had come before. And it was, part of it was because there are key things from the first and third movies that they are very specifically tying to. But otherwise, it really felt like, I don't know, for me, the way I took it was like, this franchise is called Mission Impossible, with the Impossible Mission Force, because these people are doing some insane things trying to help the world, essentially. And they actually have a few times, like in the last film and this film, they're talking about, like, when in the last film, when we have those moments of seeing Tom Cruise when he's at the very beginning, like those flashbacks of Gabriel and how he came to this job, right? And it's brought up in this one with Haley Atwell, and Ving Rhames talks about their job, about these people they'll never meet. And I think the way I took it, and I can understand why it's going to feel kind of bloated and heavy and too much, but I just felt like it gave me a sense of, it was like a nice reminder of this whole franchise as kind of a single story of Ethan and the IMF and what they're working on and trying so hard to do in order to actually help those people who they'll never meet.
Yeah, and I like that. I do think, and we talked about this. There is a degree of retroactive continuity to introduce this. You were given the choice. You were given the choice to join IMF because you were a criminal. We never got any of that in the first 6 movies, and not until number 7 when they show us that Gabriel killing the woman in the dark alley. And by now, I feel like we've adapted. It's been some years since they introduced that, and it feels like, okay, that's a part of the world now, and we can understand that. They leaned in pretty hard on that oath, which was the oath that they presumably took 30 years ago, and now we're just hearing it, for ostensibly the first time. And so some of that backstory, like, I just couldn't help but wonder, and I'm sure this is going to age softly on me. I really am. It's me being just hypercritical, just saw it brand new. But I just wonder if some of that stuff was a little bit too held as sacrosanct. Like they just felt too emotionally tied to the franchise, certainly more emotionally tied to the franchise than I am. And I just wanted to get to the story. And it just took a long time to get there. I felt like a lot of those emotional beats were pretty repetitive. And I think they took their own sweet time.
I can totally see that. I definitely see that. I guess, I don't know. For me, I just find that it's their last film. I'm giving them maybe more grace.
Yeah.
Maybe
let them have it.
Yeah, because I'm like, I like that maybe it took a long time to get to this point, but I like that it feels like, yeah, this has become a very important franchise for these people. And the way that they have crafted that, the monologue, we see it at the beginning of the previous film when the delivery guy comes to drop off food for Ethan in that abandoned warehouse, and it turns out he's actually he's a new recruit who's kind of, getting all of this, and they kind of go through that verbiage of, why this is so important. You're doing this for some people you'll never meet. You start understanding like the setup of the job. And I think there's probably, I don't know about the similarity in the language, but probably something along the same line for people who join the FBI or the CIA. Like there's probably some sort of language that they also are adopting that's probably a similar sort of thing. And so, I don't know, I like that they chose to end this going really big, like actually making it feel like these missions are flippin' impossible, and this team somehow manages to do it, and they're doing it because of the love for humanity and wanting to make things okay for all of these people. And I don't know, I guess I'm just giving them a lot of grace, and I kind of felt like, for me, I welcomed the way that it started.
Yeah, I get that. And I think there are two sides to this. The side that is just like, I'm here for a Mission Impossible movie. I think the hour could have been done in a half hour? Maybe. It's almost a 3-hour movie. And because it felt bloated to me, it felt like they could have achieved the same thing without the breathless sort of parade of beats. But the other side of me is like, give these guys their credit where it's due. This is an absolutely epic franchise. It is a favorite franchise of a lot of people, and let them take their time to do the parade march. It's fine.
It is interesting, to your point. It will be interesting to see how it plays, like once it's out of theaters and it's been released, and like when you decide I'm going to do a marathon of like 20 plus hours and just watch the entire thing. How will it feel? Like by the time you get to this, is it going to feel like I just watched all these movies? Now I'm
Right.
just ready to
I get it.
get into the submarine,
Yeah.
right? Oh, my goodness.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so the film, once we kind of get that set up, now we have Ethan on the run, and the idea is that this whole thing trying to figure out, like, basically he gets a message from the president herself, Angela Bassett, who I believe had been the head of CIA, right?
Yeah,
Before
right.
Carrie Elwes took over. She is now the president, and she is the person who's delivering the message that self-destructs, because he will not respond to anyone else. And that actually gets him to come in, turning himself in, and we kind of get a setup of the crux of the story, that he has to get whatever it is that's on that submarine, the entity, all of this sort of stuff, and really kind of kicks things off. As far as the way things get moving, I mean, I know you talk about like that abyss, like the Hunt for Red October sequence being like where things really kick off for you. But as we get to that setup with everything going on, with everything in the meeting with the president and all of her team, and the trip out to the battleship and getting onto the submarine, I mean, or onto the other sub that takes him to the island, like how that whole setup for the beginning of the film, I mean, how's all that play for you?
So, there are elements of it that I think are really good and taut. And I do like the part where Benji and Luther and Ethan are together. And I like when they say foosball table together, even though I do not believe that that is what the three of those guys would do if they had a place together and were decorating. I thought that was amusing to me. And I like their camaraderie when we get it. We have a couple of bomb diffusing scenes, where other movies, the bomb is the big thing. And here there's a bigger thing. And I like how they ratchet it up. It's not just one little bomb. It's one little bomb and then a really big bomb. And then you know what? The entire world's a bomb. So we're just ratcheting it up over and over again. And I think they do a great job of setting up those stakes. The setup is, I think this first hour leans heavily into exposition in a way that these movies have sort of perfected, if you like this kind of thing, which is cross-cutting between expository sequences, right? Where you have the one set of people talking about one thing that's coming, and somebody in another location, in another scene, answers that question and continues the conversation, and they toss back and forth. And they do that with scenes of exposition. They do it with action sequences and fights that cross-cut back and forth as if a punch thrown over here is received on a submarine somewhere. They do that all over the place. This first hour is full of it. And even as that first hour is really long, I do think those kinds of sequences are good, especially for a movie with so much baggage around strategy, around what we're about to do, around naming things that are, that you're going to forget in 2 minutes. Because there's a lot of hand-wavy action that goes on, and we have to make sure you're keeping up at a bare minimum. So we're going to keep telling you over and over, and different people are going to tell you in different places so that you really can hammer it home. And I think the movie just really leans into that. So there are a lot of those mechanics that I found I enjoyed. I enjoyed playing with them. I loved the initial fight, the rescue of, when he's there, he's tied up, and Haley Atwell is tied up against the, concrete column, and like that sequence was great and funny that it's one of those scenes where we get her, and she's just exceptional at watching grievous trauma happening off camera and delivering incredible looks, and the final setup with the bad guys with an axe in his back. I thought that was delightful. Like those kinds of elements were really fun.
Axe in the back, so delightful.
So delightful. Like that's not a Mission Impossible thing normally.
Yeah.
Axe in the back, like that's a joke, and I like the joke. I'm here for the joke.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have any sort of reductive vibe getting him out to the battleship, getting him out to the flat top.
I don't know. I mean, I've only seen it the one time, and I was pretty excited, and I can definitely see why you would feel that way, but I didn't it wasn't slow for me. I appreciated kind of like the catch up, the way that we were kind of like getting a sense of all of that. And again, it just made it feel like there's this big story here. Like we're kind of working on an epic level for this franchise. And I felt like in a film that literally ends with kind of the fate of the world in this one man's hands, I felt like we're working with some pretty big stakes. So playing with this whole scene where meeting with the president and her whole staff and all of that, it worked for me. I thought it played well, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you know, the whole escape of him and Grace, I thought played nicely, and then trying to catch Gabriel, leading to, you know, the moment where, as Gabriel says, one of your team is going to die, and it turns out to be Luther, who, I don't know, conveniently was sick suddenly for this film. You know, he hadn't been sick, as I recall, in the previous films, and I think that they were just coming up with a way to make it okay to kill him by having him actually be sick and dying. And so it's like, well, now it's okay. And he's okay with it. And that's kind of the whole thing, that he ends up disarming the nuclear device. The bomb is still going to go off. I'll never understand the physics. This is an aside. If you have a nuclear device and you disarm it, but it still is a bomb that has to go off as part of the disarming. Like, I don't understand that. But how does just the fact that a bomb going off isn't going to somehow still make the nuclear device go off? Like, I just don't understand that. Maybe a scientist can explain it to me, but I don't get that. Like, you know, but that happens several times.
It happens a good 2 times, and it's devastating both times. So let me ask you this, if I may. What does the entity do to Ethan when Ethan is in the sarcophagus?
Because everything that happened with Gabriel in the last film, where Ethan bested him and got away with the key, Gabriel's now on the bad side of the entity, and so Ethan now goes into the sarcophagus, and my impression is it, like, I don't know, it like taps into his brain, like the wiring of his brain or something, and basically learns everything it can about Ethan from his mind, but also, you know, incepts, I suppose, all of the additional information about all of these other people and everything into Ethan, so that Ethan now has this massive amount of knowledge and backstory and all these little bits and pieces about everybody. I don't know if it's, I mean, it again, it's movie magic. I don't know if I need to fully understand it. Light flashes, electric shocks, all of that somehow connects the two, which is what Gabriel had done with when he was working with the entity.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. He got Johnny mnemonicked, right? He just had too much data in his brain.
Yes.
They did not make a big deal out of that at all. It was just like, okay, this is just the thing. The entity is now plugging in and you're fine.
Yeah, and that was a question because Paris is just like, it's going to change you.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect.
Yeah, it will change you. And I guess it did. I mean, he came out, he questioned reality. He was able to say, you know, don't go on the ice, Grace, whatever you do. Like, he had these visions of the future. Great. I thought that was not going too into detail on what happens when the entity talks to you is a good thing. We did not need to go completely Johnny mnemonic, and we just get an idea that this is kind of what's happening, and they move along. We never see the sarcophagus again, which is great. Don't need to see it again.
Do you think that he goes into it again? Because Gabriel seemed to.
That was like his sleeping chamber.
It was like
he
knows
he was like
vampire.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas, I don't think Ethan. Well, and also because from that point forward, he's trying to stay distant from the entity, right? It's doing its thing, trying to take over all the nuclear weapons in the world. And Ethan has this plan where they're going to try to, find the Sevastopol and disarm or steal the information on it, et cetera, so that they can stop it with this whole thing in South Africa.
And in that way, as sort of magical as the entity is, I think you said it right. Like, we're at kind of a distance from the entity. The entity just becomes a ticking clock as visualized on this giant map of countries that are falling. And we don't need to think about it. We don't need to think about what it's doing. We know it's just hammering away at security systems and that's the ticking clock. That's the problem that we're trying to solve. And I think that's good.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the entity in the last film seemed to be able to tap into everything going on everywhere and always was watching Ethan, right? It always seemed like it would just show up. Like when they're at the party with the White Widow, they realize that all of the screens, like they're in the entity. It's kind of everything. It's observing everything that's going on. And here, and that's a point where it's like, I mean, we know the entity has a particular mission. Did it need to show us that it also is on the aircraft carrier, that it's also on the submarine? Like, does that matter that are we still assuming it's everywhere watching what Ethan's doing, but not worrying about it because it has this very particular plan that really kind of requires Ethan to just go through all of this stuff anyway?
Well, if that's more than a rhetorical question, then I'll just say, I personally,
I'm entitying you.
You just entitied me. I personally was not thinking about it because, the thing picks up 4 months later. The movie picks up 4 months later and sets up, I think, well, that the entity has just absorbed everything. The entity is everywhere. The last thing that it needs to do is the nuclear arsenals of the major nuclear countries, and it's just working on that. Like, we don't need to do the AI tricks that the last movie did because we've seen that before, right? Again, coming at this Doyleistically, we don't need the tricks like in the glasses, in the camera feeds. We don't need any of it because we've been there, done that. Now we're going to see something different as much as we can, which is, so I think it's okay.
I'm glad that you put it that way, because I think that helps the fact that we're not seeing that little kind of the image, the way the entity looks every time we see it. It's not popping up on other screens elsewhere. And I get right. I don't think we needed that. So, yeah. But that pretty much gets us to the North Pacific, right? Where we're visiting St. Matthew Island, which is, I think a pretty exciting part of the film because it brings back CIA analyst William Dunlow.
The last character in a million years that I would have expected to bring back. The guy that Ethan and team gave horrible diarrhea in the first movie.
Yep. Yeah.
Here's what I love about that, and we can talk about kind of their initial meeting, which is great. But what I love the most about Dunlow being back is the meeting between Dunlow and Hunt on the plane. That could have been played for laughs, and it was played for heart, and that was awesome. It was awesome because the last time they were together, it was played for laughs.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
To hear Ethan say, I don't know how to make amends for what I did to your life, and have that come out the way it did. You don't apologize for anything. You gave me the life that I have. You gave me my wife. You gave me this incredible last 30 years. I should be thanking you. It was a very powerful sequence. That was earned. I was legitimately surprised that they wrung that out of this, what could have been just dumb stunt casting.
It played so well, and they gave him this wife who's local from the area, and I bought into that relationship too. It's a small little bit that we have between the two of them, but it's clear how she kind of connects with people. And like when she last leaves Grace as they're splitting up in the little place in South Africa, and she's just like, I will see you again. It's like, really heart-tugging, because it's like they've developed these characters. They had the two of them off on their own little mission, and now we see that there is this connection between them. It made for just an incredibly sweet, touching way to continue that element of the franchise. I loved it.
Yeah, me too. I really did. I thought it hit just the right spot.
Yeah. Now, that's the connection to the first movie. One of the other things we learn is, and this was back in our conversation about Mission Impossible 3, we had some questions about the rabbit's foot, aka the anti-god, and we're getting more information about that now. And how did that connection to that film play for you as to how it evolved into this film?
Okay, J.J. Abrams, all due respect to your mystery box, I do think McQuarrie just flipped you off. I really do.
Is that even his mission or his mystery box, or was that purely just the biggest of MacGuffins? Oh yeah, it's this thing.
It's this thing. You don't need to worry about this. It doesn't matter because we're telling the human story. And it was a laugh out loud. They didn't tell you what was in the rabbit's foot, did they? It's computer code, as if just so defiantly resolving this decades-old mystery from what was ultimately a good Mission Impossible movie.
Sure, yeah.
It was just one of those things, and I think it actually resolved really well. He said it because Cruise actually acknowledged, or Hunt character actually acknowledged, I didn't know what it was, but I know why I stole it, and the reason I stole it was not good for the country, and that put us in the bind we're in today. I think they ultimately, as good a time as any to just say I'm in favor of how they built the row of dominoes leading from the first movie to Ethan Hunt's guilt and shame here, to Ethan Hunt's responsibility for getting them in this position here. I don't know that, I think I could, if I wanted to, pull these apart and think, oh, this is, it's ridiculous the way why he would feel shame for that. He did what he could do. He's a soldier in the fight against terror and against this kind of crime. Why should he feel bad about anything? But ultimately, it was emotional motivation that I bought, and I don't want to pull that stuff apart, right? Because I was on board with it as we got into that part of the film. And ultimately, I was on board with it because it could exist without needing a terribly strong villain to exist too.
Right. Yeah, I love all of that. Everything you said, I agree with. It's exactly where I stand with it. I just thought it was it played really well. As far as the villain, Gabriel, versus the entity, but a human villain, Gabriel. This is the second film with him as our villain. How does he work?
More power to him for coming back for another movie. But Esai Morales was underused in this movie, or maybe underwritten to be the human manifestation of the villain that I needed. And that's okay. He was mysterious and awful in the last movie. In this movie, once the entity sort of took over and he was separate from it, I found I no longer really thought much of him, right? He was a vessel that delivered some great action sequences. And that's kind of the extent of it. He was just not a great, compelling villain in this movie.
That's interesting, because I don't know, I think I liked him more than you did. I liked that he was kind of butthurt, right? The entity dumped him, and now he's just like the angry ex, and he's just doing what he can to still come out on top. And now he wants to come out on top of even the entity. And yeah, I agree. They could have given him some stronger moments and stuff, but I kind of enjoy seeing Morales in the role and doing all of this stuff. And I don't know, I had fun. I guess I didn't run into this with specific problems because of the way that it was structured.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say there were real specific problems. The point is, he left with the poison pill around his neck, and that gave way to an awesome chase in the sky, right? He was just more present. I think back to great villains like our villain in 3, and I think, where's that? That's the level of sinister that I would love to have seen in Gabriel, and I just didn't feel like I got it.
I guess I can definitely appreciate that. I guess for me, I just wasn't too worried about needing that again. Like, I enjoyed that it just put us into a place where everybody's now trying to, get control of the entity, including him, including Kittredge, right? Like, they all show up. They're all trying to figure out how can we come out on top. The only thing that I felt like it was missing was actually even more governmental people from different parts of the country or the world coming here trying to also get the entity for themselves, which as we talked about in the previous film, everybody apparently wants it, but we never actually see anybody trying to get it.
Right. That's it.
Yeah. But I mean, you mentioned the incredible stunt work that we have at the end of this in South Africa after Gabriel gets away with the poison pill. Of all the Mission Impossible stunt sequences, I still am like, how are they flipping topping themselves again? Like, that was some of the most insane work, and it went on so long. I'm just like, this is mind-boggling.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. But before we talk about the plane, I know I'm hijacking. We got to talk about the underwater stuff, because the underwater stuff, I thought, okay, everything. He's in the torpedo room. Like, he has to go through this submarine.
Yeah, right.
The Sevastopol. He has to make his way through it. He ends up flooding it. First of all, because he's already abyssed it, he's gone down way too far, and he's in that suit, and he's already compromised. Delusions, his fists are
shaking,
crimping up.
Yeah.
Right, he's shaking, and so he's compromised. He has to get into this submarine and crawl through the submarine. It's to different degrees of flooded and open.
And frozen.
Yeah, it's just all kinds of bad news inside. And once he starts bringing water into it, it dislodges the submarine, which starts to roll. And it's rolling toward an even steeper cliff. So now we have a new clock, a new danger that he's working toward. And he has to go through the whole thing through the torpedo room, which is full of torpedoes that have all fallen off of their moorings, their rails, and get into this little room. He gets the hard drive, and then he comes back out. Now, I thought, what are they going to do to make this exhilarating? This is going to be the first miss of the stunt sequence in Mission Impossible. I was like, I'm already set up to be totally bored, because frankly, I was a little bit upset that he pulled the Red October thing. I was like, come on, that's like a half hour of you doing the exact thing to get Jack Ryan onto the ship, to get to the helicopter, to get to the thing, to pull the cable so he's in the ocean, it was the same sequence. And I was a little bit, speaking of butthurt, I was butthurt. I was like, this is as unoriginal as they get, this setup. And then he's abyssed it down in the fancy suit, and now he's traipsing around. And he proceeded to do this thing in this submarine tank that had me on the edge of my damn seat, Andy. Those slow motion torpedoes falling all over the place were awesome. I thought it was great.
It was fantastic. That whole sequence, I didn't have any issues with the setup being stolen from Hunt for Red October. I just it plays. Like, I thought all of it worked quite well, and I also love the fact that we're living in this world where we've got women and non-white men in charge of everything. Like, it's just like, this was a great way to kind of like subtly just throw some notes out there for our current administration, but I really enjoyed all of that. And so, yeah, but once we get into the submarine, I mean, I agree. It was so tense and claustrophobic, especially because he's got the shakes from the nitrogen getting into his blood. And now he's trying to figure out how to escape and can't quite, the way that he's rigged up in the suit, and has to keep figuring out things to remove to the point where when he's finally on his ascent, it's just like there's no way that he can actually survive without drowning, which he does, and they have to actually bring him back. And it's just like, it played so well. It was exceptional.
And it does make, I think, the most beautiful single shot in the movie is as the camera rolls and we see him as he's rising toward the ice. He actually appears to be descending to it and lands in the slush on the underside of the ice. That shot, that single shot, I think is just devastatingly beautiful and well earned. It does feel a little bit like he dove in the fancy suit to a much deeper depth than he would have been able to just free swim to the surface.
Oh, no. There's no way. Like, he was so far down, there's no way he could. I mean, it only made sense if he drowned on his way up, which he does. So I guess
which he does.
You just have to acknowledge he drowns, he freezes. They put him in a decompression chamber and save him, and yeah, it all is done with a magic kiss, Pete. It's all done with the magic kiss.
The magic kiss. Another question, and I don't want to overanalyze. Is it okay for someone who is not experiencing massive decompression sickness to hang out in the portable decompression chamber?
I was wondering about that. I was like, should Grace be in there? I don't know.
I don't think Grace should have been in there.
Yeah.
It's very romantic and I love it. Heart forward. But I don't think that was cool.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be putting her into a place where it's compressing her and then slowly, I mean, I guess it's okay. It's no different than diving, right? It's going to compress, it gets to the compression depth of where he's deeper and then just allows for that slow decompression that he's supposed to do when he's actually in the suit. But theoretically, maybe it's okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I buy it.
Yeah.
So anyway, they get out. I love that reunion. It's great. It's lovely. And because I'm so in the bag for Haley Atwell, I'm so glad she's in these movies right now. She's just fantastic. We did not mention two other characters that we don't see after this point again, and I just have to mention them because of how much I adore that they're in this movie. Hannah Waddingham as the rear admiral on the aircraft carrier is wonderful from Ted Lasso. I know her, but she's also an incredible singer and she's just a phenomenal talent and she's got a bang up American accent. Not bad.
I've never seen any of the shows that she's been in. So I feel like as I watch this, I mean, I know she's been in things like she was recently in The Fall Guy, where I think she's also American, right? The producer. I missed the Garfield movie, unfortunately. Interestingly, she was also in Lilo and Stitch, opening the same weekend as this. So she was going
She's having a hell of a year. Let's just say that.
Have a hell of a weekend, man. Jeez.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I enjoy her, but I don't know enough of her to celebrate her.
Well, I think the other person who's having a hell of a year is Tremel Tillman, who I think is an extraordinary talent. And coming off of his work in Severance, to see him as the chief of the boat, put him in any submarine movie, and I am here for it, but really any movie, I think he is fantastic. And such charisma. He's just magnetic. I cannot wait. Whatever you want to put him in, I am here for Tremel Tillman. I think he is awesome.
100%. He was so great. It was great seeing him show up here, and I just hope we start seeing more of him on the big screen.
Yeah. He's had a lot of TV leading up to, I think he did Baron's Cove, which I haven't seen, Sweethearts, which I also haven't seen. That was a Max original, but those are the two films that he did, and then Severance and Mission Impossible. So it's nice to see he's got 3 new projects coming up, including Severance, the next and last season of Severance. So he's just great. He's just really great.
Can we talk about airplanes now? I mean,
yeah. Okay, now we can talk about airplanes.
I've been holding off, but yeah. And honestly, I don't know if I really have much to say other than Tom Cruise is insane. And the stuff that he chooses to do is mind-boggling. And watching this whole sequence, and I mean, it was nice to see in the end credits, like when you see the pilots of the biplanes, it lists like 8 guys, one of which is Tom Cruise. And like he consistently is listed in all of these different things because he's this guy who's learning how to do this crazy stuff. I mean, the behind the scenes of him, like where he's wired in, like he's cabled onto
that
the plane.
wire is
but he's
a
still,
joke.
He's still doing that stuff. And I just like, I was pretty stunned. And I was also just impressed with the stunt team, because not only do we have all of this happening, but we have an entire camera department either on the plane filming or on a different plane filming, whatever they're doing. I mean, it's top-notch stunt work. And it led to one of the most exciting sequences. But it ended in a moment that I have questions about.
Well, can I ask you a different question? So the last movie, the promotion of the last movie, they made a big effort to show so much of the jump, right? The big jump. And I personally loved that. I loved going into the final movie knowing how the stunts worked, because it made the movie better. And I loved the biplane sequence. I loved the wing walking. I thought it was really great. It was so obviously there, and I loved watching his face get peeled back. He peeled back. I thought it was great. But I went with some intention to watch a lot of the behind the scenes stuff now that they've released it after the movie was released. And I actually feel like I enjoyed it even more the second time, seeing how he did it, because how he did it is still ridiculous. It is still absurd that this human being was latched to that plane with that teeny tiny little tiny frail stupid chain wire and flipped himself around on those wings and climbing from plane to plane. Ridiculous, human being. Why would you do that? It was exhilarating. So I wonder if it wasn't, I don't know. I mean, the movie's doing fine. It probably, you make the case that hiding some of those things was the right decision. But for my money, I appreciate these stunts even more after seeing how they were done. A little bit of the rawness of it.
I will say I appreciated not seeing any of the behind the scenes before going into this, because I felt like with the last one, and because they started this trend, I don't know, back when he hangs onto the plane and whatever, the two before.
What was that, Fallout?
Yeah, anyway, he hangs onto the plane. Like, they started this thing of like, oh, we're going to show how we did this real thing for real and everything. And I felt like the jump was like so much information about it that it was not exciting at all when I finally saw it on the big screen.
Oh, that's too bad.
I'm like,
okay,
well, I've already gone through this, so now let's get to the end of it. I mean, it was fun to see, but and nice to see in context of the actual film. But like this one, I don't know. I guess for me, I realized it's more powerful for me when I don't have the behind the scenes beforehand. Like, I appreciate that stuff so much more. I see it the first time and I'm in the world of the movie, and then I get to figure out how they did it afterward. And I just like that so much more.
Fair. Okay. What was your concern with how it ended?
Well, and again, this is just, again, reminding people we are spoiling the hell out of this movie. So if you haven't seen it, shame on you. You should have already watched it before getting this far into the conversation. But okay, Gabriel jumps out with a parachute. He goes and immediately gets killed in the kind of funniest way possible. I couldn't stop laughing. But so Ethan finds another parachute and he gets off, and his parachute catches on fire as he falls, and he still managed to accomplish his mission. But then it turns out he actually had another parachute. Like,
a backup chute. Yeah. Right.
So you're okay. So you saw that coming. You knew that there would be. Okay. Because for a minute I'm like, are they pulling a No Time to Die here? Because I legit, with No Time to Die, you can set up this world where your heroes can die and set up for, and yet the series could potentially continue.
Yes. And that was what I expected to be. As I said, the long tracking shot over the fields of South Africa, demonstrating Ethan Hunt's broken body.
Yeah.
But I did not. I mean, I kind of knew that there was going to be the backup shoot. That was good. I didn't have a problem with that.
It's just for having a backup shoot, it just felt like he would have just pulled that right away instead of falling through the clouds. Like, it's one of those things where it's just
seems like it would have slowed him down to give him more time to do what he needed to do.
Like, if your parachute's on fire, just pull the backup. Like, once the fire is out, just get it out right away. But hey,
right. I guess I just like, my anxiety was not necessarily that he was going to, I don't know what this says about me, that he was going to fall to his death, but that he didn't have the poison pill and the little drive somehow tied to his wrists, because I was worried he was going to drop one of them in the sky.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of anxiety around that.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
Yeah. But it was a great stunt. And that's another one, watching how they pull that stunt off and the kind of camera rig that they strapped to Tom Cruise and then threw him out of a plane and set him spinning was extraordinary. It was incredible.
He's crazy, man, just crazy. Well, I mean, I think it's a strong film, a strong entry in the franchise, and it's got, a nice return in some capacity of Luther at the end that I think, for me, really kind of connected the whole thing. It was that final puzzle piece that we needed to really kind of wrap up not just this film, but the franchise as a whole. I thought it was just so effective. I loved it. I mean, it's a great movie. Glad we had a chance to add it to the films that we have discussed on the show.
Me too, for sure. And I will say, beside that first hour, man, I look forward to seeing it again. I really enjoyed my time with it.
I'll even take the first hour. I'll watch your first hour again.
Watch it twice? Yeah. That's good. At some point, you'll get tired of it.
We'll see.
I'm sure. 5 or 6. I don't know.
I haven't gotten tired of all the endings on the Return of the King, so I might be okay. All right. Well, we will be right back. But first, our credits.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by Solace, Oriole Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. Okay, so I'll just ask it again. For the record, do you believe that there are no sequels that are coming for us?
I mean, here's the thing. I believe at this point they feel there are no sequels coming. Does that work?
No, I mean, I think that's a candy-ass way to put it, but all right.
I mean, here's the thing. It's a money-making franchise for a studio that is designed to make money. Do I think that Paramount is going to come back and say, it's time for us to get back to this? Yes, I think that they're going to say at some point, it might be 15 years. It might be a legacy franchise continuation that we end up having. Who knows? But I can't imagine that they're going to let it end here.
I think they should try a ballerina for it, like they're doing with John Wick.
I think the thing that I think will make it the most complicated for them to continue is figuring out in Hollywood who is the next Tom Cruise, who is that insane, who is doing all of these things themselves. Because in some capacity, I feel like that's become such an essential part of it that, like, if you have, and I'm going to say Glenn Powell just because his name has been brought up before. I'm not saying this about Glenn Powell in a negative way where I don't think he could actually pull that sort of stuff off. I'm just saying you also have to find that person who has that thing in their head who's just like, I am so committed to this that I am going to tie myself to the side of an airplane and do all of this stuff for real because it's that important to me that I'm bringing that visceral non-CG experience to the audience. And that's a big ask of somebody.
You know who it is, though.
Nicolas Cage. It's always Nicolas Cage. He's always the answer, Pete.
No, this case it's Florence Pugh. Did you see the behind the scenes of her on that building?
Oh, yeah.
I think that was an audition reel for future Mission Impossible. She was saying, I love heights. Watch me. I'm going to throw myself off this building with a smile on my face. Like she's awesome.
Speaking of butthurt, Haley Atwell would be pretty butthurt if it ended up being just, hey, Florence, come on in.
Hey, is Haley Atwell going to do it? I would be there for Haley Atwell. Is she going to throw herself off a building with a smile? I'll be there. I have 100%. But so far, everybody who's currently in these movies, all they talk about on the promo, as if contractually obligated to do it, is, oh, Tom's amazing. He's so crazy. I couldn't do what he does. No one has said, I'll do it.
That's the thing. Yeah. You need to figure out you just have to find that person who's got that switch in their head.
Yeah.
So far, as far as we know in this world, Tom Cruise is the only person who's got that switched. I'm curious. Is there another one?
Yeah. Is there another one? All right. Well, how is it doing as we record this at the box office?
Well, because of delays caused by both the pandemic and then the 2023 strikes, McQuarrie ended up with a bloated budget of $400 million to make this massive wrap-up to the franchise. That makes it about the fourth most expensive film ever made. Pete, quick question. Do you know what the other three ahead of it are? Any ideas?
In adjusted dollars?
In adjusted dollars, yes.
Is one of them an Avatar movie?
No. In
Is
fact,
one of them Waterworld?
Avatar: The Way of Water is number 9 on the list.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is one of them Waterworld?
Actually, I don't know if these are adjusted. They're just the officially acknowledged figures.
Okay, then I'm all at sea.
Let me just say, they're all within the last 10 years. Like, they weren't making things this expensive even in the Waterworld days.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 1, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, estimated at $447 million.
Damn.
Then Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, $432 million. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, $416 million. Then you have this. Next is Fast X, which is at $379 million, tied with Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. And it goes down from there. But yeah, that's a lot of pennies to make one of these movies.
That's so funny. I think my head is just twisted around that. I don't think I would have put 2 Star Wars movies in the top 3.
Well, yeah. I mean, it can make sense, I suppose, if you think it's the new one that's going to restart the whole thing and bring us back. And then it's the big finale. So I can see them.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe it's just J.J. Abrams. His paycheck was a big chunk of that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Huge. Right.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, the movie had its world premiere in Tokyo May 5th, then screened at Cannes before opening wide May 23rd, Memorial Day weekend here in the States. And while it couldn't pull into first place ahead of the live-action Lilo & Stitch, which more than doubled what Mission Impossible 8 made, it did end up, as you said, breaking the franchise record for a global opening. On just over 3,800 screens, it so far has earned $77.5 million for the 4-day opening weekend here in the States, with an international weekend estimate of $127 million for a total gross so far of $204.5 million. If it keeps this up, I think it's fair to say it's on track to break even. Of course, that is not including prints and advertising, so maybe it won't. Anyway, it's nice to see it doing well so far.
Yeah, I think the question is it going to make $1 billion?
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a tough one, but you never know. It could do really well. We'll see.
All right. Well, I'm sure glad we talked about it. I'm glad to feel like we closed the book on this franchise, maybe
for now.
But it was a hell of a way to end it.
I thought so too. I mean, I think that they delivered something really big and exciting, and it felt like an epic finale of this world, of these actual impossible missions that somehow one person somehow does manage to actually, like, it felt impossible, like legit felt like this is seriously impossible, yet he managed to pull it off. I loved it.
Exactly.
All right, well, we will be right back for our ratings, but first, I don't know, here's the trailer for another surprise member bonus episode that we're going to drop next month, Pete. Something you're very excited about and added to our car racing series, Joseph Kaczynski's F1.
So you like straight talk?
Straight as an arrow. No sugar.
Why are you here, Sonny? When you look in the mirror, you see this rough and tumble, old school cowboy. Doesn't take orders, goes his own way, huh? A lone wolf. Well, I've news for you. Formula One is a team sport. It always was. Listen, let's get this straight. We all lose our jobs if you can't pull off a miracle.
No pressure.
None.
The only question here is, why did Sonny Hayes come back to F1?
I think it's really wonderful that Apex are giving second chances to the elderly.
It's all right. You're just worried I'm quicker than you.
You're making a mistake, thinking that I'm just gonna be some grateful kid who'll bend the knee to an old timer.
I never should have pulled you into this.
Down the inside, contact!
That's the other driver. You say he was old. He not that old. That's a handsome man right there.
What's he doing? Plan C, be ready.
Just gotta hope for some lucky breaks. Hope is not a strategy.
Anything else, Professor?
Try fast. Ever seen a miracle?
Not yet. How do you think I'd feel if you die on the track?
3 laps. 3 laps is a lifetime.
Letterboxd, Andy. It's Letterbox time. This is where we apportion our stars and hearts to see what we think of the movies and cement them in history forever and ever, never to be undone. What are you going to do for this movie this week?
I enjoyed this immensely. I had a great time with it. I was very impressed with what they did to wrap all this up, to tie things together. Is it a little bloated? Yeah, but the franchise has bloat. It's just one of these things that I feel like is part of what they do with this franchise. I think they get so excited about these big stories that they just keep making them bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was in it. From beginning to end, I was along for the ride. I don't know if the bloat will end up being an issue for me as it goes, but I had a great time. So I'm going to say, am I going to say 4, 4.5? You know what? I'm going to go 4.5. I'm going to go big and go home. And that's where I'm sitting. 4.5 and a heart.
Go big and go home?
I'm done.
Big,
I'm going home.
Then go home.
I can go big and still be at home, Pete.
You could go big at home. Go big at home. I'm going to go 4 stars. It's not quite a 5-star, and I think the internet ranking crew is going to figure out where this thing is going to sit, and for me, it's definitely in the top half. But I kind of feel like I need to revisit all my reviews first.
I think it's easy for me to say that pretty much, God, it's really hard because 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are all kind of so good. And I don't know how I would squeeze one of them out to make it into my top half. But I don't know. It's solid. It's a whole solid bunch of films. I mean, people say this is like rare to find a franchise that just continues besting itself. So
yes, totally true.
Yeah,
totally true.
Although it hasn't since Fallout.
I guess that's true too.
But still.
Extraordinary sequences. Like you could, if you broke up the movies into their major sequences, I think we'd have kind of a runner. Because there are certain stunts that are still extraordinary. A movie as a whole, I think Fallout is probably the best.
Yeah. Well, this will average out to 4.25 and a heart, which will round up to 4.5 and a heart over at our account at Letterboxd, which you can find us there at The Next Reel. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film, and you can find Pete there at Pete Wright. And we should just do one more plug for membership, Pete, for those who are listening to this, because this is technically a member bonus episode, but we're releasing this to the public as just a way to say, hey, we love people listening to the show. We love talking about these movies. And if you're listening, we'd love you to consider becoming a member.
We sure would. It's just $5 a month or $55 a year. And all of that goes straight to the crew, everybody who works on the Next Reel family of film podcasts. It sure helps us keep this business going of podcasting about the movies we love. So thanks for being a part of it.
And as Pete said, like our members get early access to ad-free episodes. They get pre-show chats on regular episodes and post-show chats where we answer listener questions who are tuning in live. In fact, we may actually throw some of those listener questions at the end of this just so you can hear what that's like.
Oh, we got to do that.
Yeah, all of that you can experience by becoming a member, so please consider checking that out. So, what did you think about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Letterboxd giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
Oh, this is new movie territory. New movie, new reviews. And they're already some of the great ones.
There's some good ones.
Would you like to go first?
Sure. I've got a 3.5 and a heart by Jay, who says, "You can't hate this one. That's what the entity wants. It wants us to turn against each other."
Oh, outstanding. I've got a 3.5 star and a heart from Frames of Nick, who says, "The first hour. Here's what you missed on Glee." The following hours. How the F is this even possible? This S is the greatest action set piece in the history of man. Not even Nathan Drake surviving this S. Oh my God, that's so good.
That is great.
Here's what you missed on Glee is outstanding. Frames of Nick for the win. Thank you, Letterboxd.
All right, we're going to go through some of these. We've answered some, so I'm going to kind of skim. Did you feel any COVID protocol production aspects to the finished movie?
No, I didn't notice.
Well, I didn't see anyone else underwater with him. I think he did a good job distancing himself.
Yeah, I didn't notice, and I was not thinking about it. I wonder if I missed stuff.
I don't feel like I ran into anything that felt like because of delays and everything, which, I mean, I think they were doing a really good job. I mean, Tom Cruise had a whole yelling fit about people not following protocol. So I think he did a good job of creating it, working hard to create a safe environment so that they were able to actually capture all this footage.
Yeah, he had to put the fear of Cruise in him.
Yeah. I like Tom. I always think about Tommy's comment when that came out, and he did the whole thing while he was running.
That was the funny bit that we didn't talk about, which was the behind the scenes stuff that they put out before this movie was McHugh. So I call him McHugh now because Tom does. McHugh on the BTS camera saying, what's a Mission Impossible movie without Tom running? And they just show him in London about to run across the bridge. And that was the behind the scenes, was here's Tom running. And I thought that was pretty cheeky.
We got to get the running in.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thoughts on how this movie used Paris's character, Pom Clementif?
We didn't even talk about Pom. I liked it. I liked that she was part of the kind of core team. I liked that she spoke French and everybody spoke back to her like they all understand.
It's like talking to a droid.
Spoke French. It was like talking to a droid. I thought it was great. And I like Pom a lot, and I'm glad she is in it.
I actually really liked it too, based on where we leave things off in the last film and how Gabriel betrays her because he thinks she's going to betray him. Like that all played so well and built into this person who's now lost, but is willing to help these people out because they helped her. And really, it's just because she has such an intense desire to stop Gabriel. Like, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the way that we kind of, that her character kind of evolved into this place where potentially she's now part of the team. And the point where she's like, I only kill people. And she has to operate on Benji. It's like, it really played well. What do you think of Luther's death and ending voiceover?
It was great. You can't escape Phineas Freak. I like that they brought back Phineas Freak.
Yeah. It felt like his illness, they just scripted something to make it okay that he ends up taking the bullet, basically. That was like one element that was a little scripted for me, but that being said, it played really well. Like all of that worked great. His speech at that moment to Ethan, and then at the end, I loved all of that.
And there was no indication that he was sick in the last movie?
Not that I recall. Like, I mean, I just watched that before this one, and I'm just like, I don't think they ever show him even coughing or anything. So I think it's just something that they came up with to allow for that.
Yeah.
I did wonder about, like, is that nurse that's taking care of him, is she also IMF? Or do they just have some random nurse just come down into the tunnels? It's totally fine. It's totally fine.
Sewers. Bring your med bag.
Yeah, right. Does this movie make you think McQuarrie is close or not close to the level of James Cameron? What were the most Cameron-y parts?
Well, I think any of the submarine stuff obviously screams Cameron. But I also think that, facilitating the biplane stuff is pretty Cameron-y level of devotion. Like you said, it is not a short sequence. Like, there is a ton of aerial footage to build that sequence. They spent a lot of time over many, many days in the air hanging off of those airplanes. And I think that is spectacular.
Yeah, it's stunning. I don't know. I suppose you could say that. I don't know if that's more McQuarrie or Cruise himself, or really is it like the two of them coming together to kind of become their own entity, right?
McCruisey.
That needs to do these things. What did you think of the scene when Cruise got into the entity's chamber thing? We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Would a director of the CIA get elected to the presidency these days? Not a chance. It
depends on how many followers they have.
That's true. But is the director of CIA
how many
on social? Like, is that
they would have
weird?
to be. They would have to be, or they have to be actively also a Fox News host.
Hey, it's possible these days. You can only laugh, Pete. How many of the big ensemble dialogue scenes do you think had the actors all present at the same time? Some of the President's Council scenes were pretty janky. That's interesting. I mean, I kind of assumed they were all together, because when you get to that point where she's deciding to push the button, they're clearly all there. I mean, they're all in shots. They're in single shots together where they're all hovering over her as she's trying to decide to push the button or not. I guess because they were working on the safety of the stuff, it just doesn't even cross my mind that they were trying to film this for COVID protocol reasons.
That's a really good point. And, it was really interesting. The last movie, there is that sequence in Cary Elwes' office that is shot stylistically with a lot of weird Dutch angles, and it's super noir, and they put the subject faces in extreme close-up but odd places in the frame, and it's really a stylistic choice. And in this one, I was looking for, is he gonna make some of those weird choices again, and is it going to feel, outside of the style of the movie? And I didn't feel that at all, which actually made it feel more weird, since this was made essentially to be back to the last movie. But I didn't notice the jankiness that you're talking about, Brian. It just felt stylish.
Yeah. This is something we didn't bring up at all. Do you appreciate that Shea Whigham was Phelps's son, John Voight, from the first movie? I hated it. Legacy sequel screenwriting slop, in my opinion.
I did not appreciate it. I didn't hate it, but I think it felt to me like it felt just very strange. Why are they doing that? I didn't need it. It didn't feel like it plugged a particular intellectual hole in the story for me.
What I liked about it is that it gives us a little more sense of who Shea Whigham is as a character, right? It gives us this idea that there's more reason for him to just be perpetually chasing Ethan. And you don't get that often with kind of these side characters who are just kind of like chasing. And so to that end, I kind of liked it. I don't know if it completely worked for me. I thought it was interesting enough. So I don't know. I guess I'm not going to complain too much about it. We'll see. That's one of those things. We'll see how it ends up holding up over time.
Right.
I'm just going to skip to a few last ones. What did you think of Cruise getting so many boxer brief only scenes? Did this movie have the level of sex appeal in line with the franchise?
Yeah, the guy's 60 years old. He can pull it off.
I was just like,
he can do whatever he wants.
He's actually clearly pulling some stuff off that you don't see a lot of 60-year-olds doing. So it was impressive. It didn't bug me. It all worked for story purposes. So.
Mm-hmm.
With the Oscars adding a stunt Oscar, is Tom Cruise not going to make another one of these in order to share it with the team? Seems like no chance to me. I wouldn't think that's the reason, but I don't know. I guess we'd have to see.
It just screams like Lifetime Achievement Stunt Award at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly, if there's somebody who's giving that award the first time that it goes out, it's got to be Cruise. Like, it only makes sense to have Cruise giving that first award out. So,
yep.
Did you miss Rebecca Ferguson?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
I feel bad saying that. But, and I think it would have been a great movie with her in it. But I was so down for Haley Atwell kind of taking over that spiritual, like, place in the team that I was done.
Well, and I respect Ferguson's reasons for leaving, right? She's just like, it takes so long to make one of these movies. It ties up years of your life. And I just had to step away. She said that, like, she shot 2 full seasons of Silo in the time they were working on this one movie. Like, she's like, I just want to work. I just want to be active and doing stuff. And these movies require you to always be at their beck and call for years. And she said it was just kind of exhausting. As much fun, she said, I love being a part of it, but I just needed to step away for my own sanity. And I appreciate that. But to your point, I didn't miss her at all here. I thought it worked fine the way that it ended up playing. So.
And it's interesting, at all the homage that they did in this movie of the last 7 movies, I didn't feel like hers was a role that was celebrated all that much in that first hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wonder if he's holding a grudge. Cruise, a little bit.
I didn't read it that way, but... Last question. What did you think of Grace's arc? Speaking of Haley Atwell and Rebecca Ferguson and the whole shift in this movie, what did you think of her snuggle scene with Cruise?
Yeah, well, the snuggle scene is problematic because of the decompression chamber.
Like, she should have had, if she had blood coming out of her ears, totally fine.
Andy, you fixed it. You just fixed it. She needed ears and eyes, tear ducts. But no, I really, I just like her so much. You know, is she set up to do more? I don't know. Did she just get Captain Britain'd? Maybe.
I do like the setups and the whole thing with a good pickpocket versus a great pickpocket, giving her a key thing to do at the end of the film. Like, it all worked for me. So I don't know. I liked it. I had a great time.
She looks good fighting too, right? She looks believable. She looks super strong when she breaks that guy's knees in the thing. I mean, I am down for watching her fight. She's just really good at it to my eye. I don't know anything about anything, but but I'm here for it.
But I'm here for it. Absolutely. Well, that's a good place to end. Again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And as I said, we'll be back next time for another of these surprise member bonus episodes to talk about F1.